Jerry boy,
How you doing, Dave?
what's going on, Chief?
Good.
A big welcome back, my brother. Really appreciate you coming on. It's Gerry Beckley, singer, songwriter, performer, co founder of America. He's got his 10th solo record and entitled simply Gerry Beckley. Now, what is your favorite song on it, Jerry, and why? Of all these tunes, there's a dozen of them.
Well, oh boy, I'm probably the opening cut, My Life, autobiographical story. You know, you obviously want to start an album with something you feel quite strong about, but I like the whole record. There's lots of lovely things. I'm really proud of it.
When was it that you started? And when it comes to the batch of tunes and when you were doing it, what's the time frame on the? Because I know there's a little bit of a story on when some of this was put together.
Well, I've always been a guy that writes 10 to get two songs is the way I word it. But what that explains is there's a backstory to that. It means the other eight are not necessarily unusable. They might just not be finished. They might need a bridge or something. So it's a bit misleading when I sometimes say, oh, this song's been sitting around for 8 years or 10 years. It might have just been half a song that I never got around to finishing. One of the things about this album in particular is it's the first time that I really got to put together a record where I wasn't trying to squeeze it into Tuesdays, Wednesdays of my week. When I had such a busy touring schedule, my studio time was very limited. And I found this time, kind of starting with COVID, frankly, but leading into, I don't know if you know, I've retired from the road at the end of last year.
Right.
It's really given me time to actually focus on a tune and not have to set it down for weeks and then go back to it and stuff. So it is a lot more current, a lot more kind of the thought process is quite connected on this one.
What's the missus think of it?
She likes it. I have studios. We split our time between Sydney and Venice, California, as you know, and I have studios in both places. I am more often there, maybe not always, but because often she's there. But when I'm in Sydney, she's clearly always here, so she has to put up with a lot of it. But she's certainly not, I mean, she won't shy away from, ones that she likes. I really like that one.
Now, there's also, it's not just the lovely missus. You got these kids, too, this transcontinental. I wonder how the right way of describing Jerry's life. Now, the children, is this stuff in their wheelhouse or at all, or is it just too far removed from their youthful fancies?
Well, it's different depending on the kid. I have two of my own that are 43 and 33. And then I have three stepkids who are Australian. Youngest is 20 years old, going to be 21. And my oldest, Matt Beckley, is a very successful Grammy nominated
Right.
producer,
And,
writer producer. And he, of course, hears probably way too much of this stuff in
right.
the forth, and I very much respect his opinion. Joe is a photographer who took the album cover.
Right.
He's a very, very good photographer. And I don't know, I never really want to say, if you listen to the record. But the other day, my youngest step child, Indy, said, hey, we've got a song of yours on our playlist that they had put together. And to their credit, their playlists are a lot of kind of 70s and
Wow.
80s singer-songwriter stuff, which I think is really lovely and positive. But I said, oh, yeah, what song is it? And it was a song called Love on the Vine from a an album I think we did called Your Move many, many, many years ago. One of those where you cut 12 tunes and you might never play 10 of them again. They're just
Right.
cut for the album.
That's
But
funny.
in their listening, she kind of cherry picked that one. And I thought, God, of all the songs, you picked that one.
Yeah, well, 20 years old. That's how old that your stepdaughter is.
That one is 20, 27, and 30-year-old stepson.
Right. Yeah, that's a whole different era of music. And that's the same kind of this is a different but entirely related couple of questions here. When was the last time that you bought an album?
That's hard to pin down because I listened a lot, but I now listen on Spotify. I
Sure.
haven't, although we're trying to do a vinyl rig in both of our homes, so we've been getting vinyl stuff. I haven't actually recently bought any albums or CDs. The couple of things that I've been listening to a lot lately that I made a point of downloading that are current. I really enjoy an English group called the 1975. I've been
Right.
listening to them a lot. And all the way through the album. I'm talking about albums that I really enjoy kind of start to
Sure.
finish. And I'm a big fan of the Lemonheads. I don't know if you know
Yeah,
that.
of
Sorry, the
course.
Lemon Twigs.
Evan Dando, of course. Of
No,
course.
not Evan Daniels. Sorry, that's Lemonheads. This is a group from Long Island called Lemon Twigs,
Oh, okay,
and
Lemon Twigs. Okay.
it's two brothers, and I just love them. They're really great, and they're kind of power pop, really great stuff. I did want to add, I did recently go back to putting two albums. One is the Sly and the Family Stone album that has Family Affair on it for a variety of reasons. I really liked that era of Sly. And the other one is a somewhat obscure Beach Boy album called Beach Boys Love You, which Brian will often credit as being his favorite Beach Boy album. And it's one that not many people are familiar with.
Oh, you always have eclectic taste and obviously a connection with those cats. But on the other note, because I'm thinking of like the young stepkids and the way that the world works in their world versus when you and I were a little younger. How does it work for the record to make any money to pay for itself? When people are mostly streaming stuff, are there folks who buy it on CD? Do you get a cut of streaming it? Is it a slice of the YouTube ad revenue? Like how does the bill get paid for doing a record these days?
It's a very complicated process with some pretty sad elements and statistics. Our joke is, hey, you've got a million streams of your song on Spotify. Here's your check for $31. Now, it's kind of a joke, but it's not that far from the truth. The unfortunate thing is that the money that labels, and I hate to I can't believe I'm touting the old-fashioned label system, but they used to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in developing a band. They wanted their money back, of course. If you were fortunate to have success, you would be paying on that all back as advances. But there is very little in streaming. I fortunately have a label that supports me. Blue Alarm has been so wonderful. This is, I think, my fifth project with them, and I'm actually compensated for doing these records. But boy, is it a challenge for anybody trying to. The obvious thing is the live performances, and as much as Taylor Swift's million stadium shows earning $1 billion is going to be all over the news. It doesn't say anything about all the other young acts, that are just trying to make a living, trying to get gas money to get from gig to gig. Just on a tangent, but in the same area, and that is that nowadays with listening, very, very seldom will you find younger kids that are listening to an entire album, start
Mm,
to finish. For you and I, Dave, it was such a part of the process
right.
waiting the new Beatle album or whoever you happen to be fans of, but the process of listening to at least a 20-minute side of music, that's out the window. Most kids, they can make it through a 3-minute song, but God forbid, if you try and get them to sit down and listen to it, if this is 41 minutes, you're gonna,
Right.
not a chance. The analogy that I make, because it happened recently, when Running Up That Hill became, a 40-year-old number one record again, Kate Bush's song. Like, it was used in Stranger Things, I think. And so, but as a result, it's one of my favorite songs of all time. So I'm so grateful that kids discovered that, and it shows you how certain things can blow up. It was played in a very popular TV series. But to say that, you get all that pleasure from running up that hill and not know Hounds of Love, the masterpiece album of Kate Bush's, that song is on. I think it's kind of like saying, look at the picture of this Ferrari. Yeah, it might look really great, but you have no idea until you get in and drive it.
Right.
Um, and then that's what I think we've lost. It doesn't mean that kids aren't digging a 3-minute song, but it was really a wonderful experience to get into an album, start to finish.
Oh, that's a very interesting point and seemingly really true, especially since the music is released in single form and not emphasized around albums. Not to mention rock as a separate sort of related thing that you're talking about. Because
Sure,
I was
sure.
talking to my boss the other day, because hip hop and rap has become this thing that's lasted so long and done decades and decades of business. And when you stop and really look at rock music, you realize it didn't really last that long. The peak of it, it's sort of like we were in a post post rock thing, and in some ways, kind of a related, but in your own life. And then you mentioned it, but it may surprise some folks because it kind of came by quick there. Your new album's press release. I'll bring it up by saying this: there's a press release that comes with the new self-titled Gerry Beckley record, and it says, quote, America is on an open-ended hiatus from touring. Yet there is, in fact, an America tour with Dewey taking place. Explain what happened to drive this decision on your
Yeah.
part.
Actually, thank you for bringing that up. That should really be updated because it's now not actually new news that Dewey and the team are going out. What we intentionally at the end of last year called it a hiatus. I was very clear that I was physically done with the mechanics of touring. I loved every aspect. I loved all the guys, but it was just physically becoming harder and harder. And we batted it all around and we thought hiatus is the best way to word this because if you just say retirement, then I would be spending the next, or we would be spending the next few months having to explain yourself and why these decisions. So hiatus kind of left the door open regardless. We went through 6 months of which when this my solo album was scheduled and planned and the press releases, where yes, it's true we were on an open-ended hiatus. But after 6 months, two things happened. One is that and this is the good news, the phone never stops ringing. There's always a demand to see us and to hear those songs live. So there was an immense amount of stuff because normally, if you do 100 shows a year, those are booked at least a year in advance. So the desk is filled with contracts and routing issues and all the things that make a successful tour. But in addition to having all these offers, Dewey went about 6 months. And I find that people in my profession are of one of two schools. One like myself that is like, hey, I did 53 years. I am good. Thank you all very much. I'm still going to be making the records, but I'm going to skip that very big piece of the puzzle. Dew, on the other hand, was saying, you know what, I'm a little bit at a loss. I really miss it, that, the feedback from the crowds. I have discovered that although that is two decidedly different avenues, if you think of Paul McCartney at 81 or whatever he is, and Mick Jagger, these people are doing, the short answer is exactly what they want to do. They're out in front of the thousands of people. They love that interaction. If anything, I think I'm in the minority because as the word spread, I found more people coming to me saying, not me, man, I don't know what I would do. Um, so I totally get both sides. So Andy Barr, who toured with us for quite a few years as a lead guitarist, was available to step in. He has the most beautiful voice. I think we're so fortunate that he was available, but also he's been a member of the team. It isn't like introducing a new dude.
Right.
Um, and I know it's going to go. I've been following very close. They had rehearsals all last week. Sounds really great. They're going out. There's a full sound check on Wednesday, I think, for show Thursday. And they're going to do, I think, 35 or 40 shows this year. But I will not be there.
Is this the first time that America has ever toured with just one of the original guys left in the band?
There were a couple of times for personal reasons. I was going through a divorce once when our dear departed friend Jeff Foskett took my place for, I think, 3 shows just because I was unavailable because of circumstances.
Hmm.
There was a medical time when we were off to South America, and at the last minute, Dewey couldn't make it. And the unfortunate choice was, do we cancel an entire sold out thing or do I go down? And so I did that whole tour singing 30 songs or whatever.
Wow.
Not ideal. But those are two that come to mind. I don't think there were any others.
Wow. Well, that's something. That's a real a lot of transitions in the world, and certainly he's we had him on. I guess the last time that you guys came through, we did something with him. But on the note of before I wrap it up with you, something that I did not realize because somehow I was talking about this interview coming up. I don't know how this came up, but we've got this. I didn't realize we had such a heavy fan of yours here at HPR, apparently, besides myself. So we have this classical music host on our sister station, HPR2. Her name is Shireen. She's actually
Mhm.
a harp player, too, I might add. Really good harpist.
Well,
And she grew up rather obsessed with you, thanks to her older sister's record collection. So she was like, just the other day, she was like, are you gonna have Gerry Beckley on the show?
well, that's very, very, very kind. She's the one. I knew there was a couple out there.
And yeah, anyway, so Shireen
Give her
Top.
my best, would you, Dave? Please. It's always greatly appreciated, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I mean, she really, it reminded me, it made me look at those records and the history that you've got, the impacts that you've had on people, been both musical and just the three of you cats on some of those records with some great shots. So anyway, the best from Shireen to you. And you going to do a solo tour at all for this thing, or are you going to, no way?
There's no tour dates. The touring thing, I'm not selecting America. I don't want to go out with those guys.
Right.
I just basically I'm trying to, I'm 71 years old now. I've been doing it for 53 straight years.
It's incredible.
In my head and heart, I was kind of thinking 50 is a lovely number. Nobody would fault you for saying, a half a century. Thank you all very much. But
Same.
50 years did put us right in the middle of COVID. And when the world stopped, there was 100 shows not only on the desk, they'd already been booked and paid, frankly. So that's how it 50 turned into 53. But no, I'm planning that any travel I'm going to do is with my friends and family, hopefully.
Well, you do
And
enough having to get back and forth between Sydney and LA area there. So
I can promise you though that Hawaii is on my personal itinerary because we just loved so much coming. My wife and I do go without the shows. I don't want to say we're often in Hawaii, but it certainly is not slipped down the list of favorite destinations.
great to hear. And stay in touch for sure, brother Jerry, singer, songwriter, performer, 10th solo record, simply titled Gerry Beckley. And always a pleasure to have you on the show. Please stay safe, man.
My pleasure. Thanks. Nice talking with you again, man. Talk to you soon.
Aloha, brother.
Bye.